After being targeted by the media and criticized by F1 drivers, FIA President Ben Sulayem finally spoke up in favor of the drivers and teams. He mentioned that there is an expectation for an extra race to be included in the F1 calendar according to the Concord Agreement. However, the 2024 season already features the largest race calendar the sport has ever seen, so no additional races should be added. Sulayem told the media that if any extra race is added to the calendar, teams and drivers won't be able to handle the situation. He also mentioned that South Africa is interested in hosting a Grand Prix, as they last did in 1993. Additionally, following Franco Colapinto's debut, Argentina is another potential host for a future Grand Prix. With the economic boost that comes to any country hosting a Grand Prix weekend, it's no surprise that many nations are showing interest in hosting a race. However, 24 races in a year is still a large number and should not be increased. Sulayem emphasized that even this number is the maximum the FIA can handle, and if any more races are added, 2 teams from the governing body would need to be formed to attend the Grand Prix. Sulayem said, "You cross a barrier where you need 2 teams. We can't have any more. As for the FIA, we cannot do it with this one team. We have to have a rotation of 2 teams when it comes to the staff on the ground." Referring to the Concord Agreement, he added, I will not stop them to go to 25, because it is their right, okay? In the end, it's up to them." Meanwhile, Stefano Domenicali, CEO of Formula One, has already expressed that he believes 24 is a good number for the season's race calendar. The 2024 season's record-breaking calendar with 24 races is already a significant logistical and physical challenge for the teams, drivers, and the FIA itself. The debate around adding more races is not just about satisfying fan demand or boosting revenue through additional venues. There's a fine line between expanding the sport and overburdening the entire ecosystem. Ben Sulayem's concern about requiring 2 FIA teams to manage the additional workload is a reflection of just how much strain the current calendar already puts on all parties involved. As Formula One grows in popularity, so does the pressure on every race to be a flawlessly executed spectacle. But at what cost? Ben Sulayem's statement about potentially needing 2 teams highlights how the workload for governing the sport has reached its limits. From managing on-the-ground operations to ensuring the safety of every aspect of the race weekend, the FIA has an enormous responsibility. Adding more races without expanding resources and personnel would risk compromising the integrity and quality of the sport. The toll on drivers is another crucial factor in this debate. Formula One is physically and mentally demanding. A 24-race calendar leaves little room for recovery between races, particularly when factoring in travel, media commitments, and training. Drivers, team principals, and even fans have voiced concerns over the past few years about burnout. This issue isn't exclusive to F1, as other motorsports have also seen similar concerns. But in F1, where precision and endurance are key, the effects could be far-reaching. Lewis Hamilton, one of the most vocal critics of an overexpanded calendar, previously mentioned that adding more races would diminish the quality of each event. He argued that fewer races would ensure that each Grand Prix remains a special event, with fans and teams looking forward to them with more anticipation. As it stands, having back-to-back races with little time in between can dilute the excitement and make the season feel like a marathon rather than a strategic series of battles. Adding another race or 2 to the calendar could push drivers past their breaking point. The difference between an exhausted driver and a fully focused one could be the split-second margin between success and disaster on the track. Additionally, the emotional and mental strain from constant travel and competition could have longer-term effects on a driver's career and health. It's not just the drivers who are under strain. The teams, too, have a lot at stake. Formula One teams rely on a well-oiled machine of engineers, strategists, mechanics, and other personnel to keep things running smoothly over the course of a season. As the calendar grows, so does the burden on the teams to manage resources effectively. Freight and travel logistics are already a nightmare, with cars and equipment constantly being shipped between continents. The added complexity of extra races could strain teams' operations and budgets, particularly for smaller teams with less funding than giants like Mercedes or Red Bull. Every additional race means more travel, more wear and tear on equipment, and more potential for something to go wrong during the transit between races. The FIA and F1 management have attempted to mitigate some of these issues by grouping races geographically to reduce travel. However, there are still logistical challenges, especially when traveling from Europe to North America or Asia in quick succession. More races would only make this juggling act even more difficult, pushing teams' endurance to the brink. While expanding the race calendar seems like an opportunity for additional revenue, especially with more countries eager to host a Grand Prix, the financial implications aren't straightforward. The costs associated with putting on a race weekend are enormous, from staffing and logistics to venue preparation and ensuring safety standards are met. For countries like South Africa and Argentina, hosting a Grand Prix would indeed bring significant economic benefits, from tourism to international exposure. The resurgence of interest from South Africa is particularly exciting for many fans, as it has been more than 2 decades since the last Grand Prix there. However, the financial burden is also placed on teams, who would have to manage even tighter budgets to accommodate the added expenses of longer seasons. The potential for increased prize money or sponsorship deals may not be enough to offset the massive logistics costs. Moreover, this situation could widen the gap between top-tier teams and smaller ones, threatening the competitive balance of the sport. On the other hand, many fans are eager for more races, especially in regions where Formula One doesn't frequently visit. New races can introduce the sport to new audiences, enhancing its global footprint. With every new race, there's the potential to ignite motorsport passion in countries that haven't been traditional F1 hotspots. For example, the debut of the Miami Grand Prix in 2022 was met with great fanfare, showcasing how new locations can inject fresh excitement into the calendar. But there's a flip side to this. While fans love the idea of more races, there's also the risk of diminishing returns. When every weekend has a race, it can make the experience feel less special. Part of the magic of Formula One is the build-up to each Grand Prix, the anticipation of seeing drivers compete on different circuits with varying conditions. Overloading the calendar could dilute that excitement. Moreover, from a fan perspective, having more races can become costly. Attending races in person involves significant travel and accommodation expenses, not to mention the cost of tickets. Even for fans who follow the sport online or through broadcasts, keeping up with an extended calendar can be overwhelming, especially as the races span multiple time zones. One potential solution that has been floated is the idea of a rotating race calendar. Instead of adding more races to each season, certain races could rotate in and out of the calendar year by year. This would allow Formula One to bring back historic venues without overwhelming the existing schedule. Countries could host a race every 2 or 3 years, maintaining exclusivity while allowing fans in those regions to experience the thrill of F1. A rotating calendar could also help balance the logistical challenges for teams, as they wouldn't have to prepare for an ever-growing number of races every season. It could preserve the specialness of each event while allowing the sport to explore new markets. Ultimately, the decision to add more races will depend on a careful balance of factors. The FIA, Formula One, and the teams will need to weigh the potential financial and audience growth against the toll it takes on drivers, teams, and the governing body itself. The push for more races also comes at a time when Formula One is becoming more popular than ever, thanks to the sport's global exposure through initiatives like Drive to Survive. With more eyes on the sport, the desire to bring races to new markets is understandable. But as Ben Sulayem highlighted, there's a limit to what can be done with the current resources. Expanding the number of races without proper support infrastructure could lead to a tipping point where the sport risks losing its competitive edge. As we look ahead, the key question remains: how far can Formula One go in expanding its calendar without breaking the sport's finely tuned machine? What do you think? Should Formula One continue to expand its calendar, or is 24 races already pushing the limits? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more F1 insights and updates.